You're listening to Rebel Hearts Rising, where we believe your darkest hour holds the key to awakening depth and profound inner wisdom. I'm Tam Burke, and I created this to remind you that when your heart wants to shut down, that's your call to rise, like a phoenix from the ashes. What makes this unique is that every episode is paired with a guided meditation to help awaken your intuition and heal on deeper layers. Together, we'll turn pain into power. What if your judgment is actually your intuition? I want to tell you about a story when I used my intuition to save someone's life. Actually, I've done that twice, but this time was really specific because at first I judged this person. I know that sounds kind of crazy. Thanks for being here. Please like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Spotify, go ahead and give a follow so that you know when all new episodes are dropped. All right, let's jump in. So, the yoga studio that I owned at the time had a wall of windows and it faced out to a parking lot. And I was talking to students leaving class, and I see this car pull in and they take up 2 parking spaces, not because they're parked like long ways, they essentially park sideways across them. And I remember thinking, like, what a jerk. Who parks like that? And then all of a sudden, I started to feel this like emergency feeling in my body. I started to get a ton of anxiety. And if you've been following along, so I have a free masterclass called Fall in Love with Your Intuition. It's a great place to really start to understand the basics, in that our intuition happens through our body. So often we think it happens through our mind, but it really is the practice of receiving, being open to the wisdom that exists in our body. And like I ranted about in the last podcast episode or 2 podcast episodes ago, if the human body has enough wisdom to make bones and eyeballs and even male anatomy, don't you think that there's a lot of other wisdom that's going on within us pretty regularly? And so, what if it's more about tapping into the way our body's feeling and the signals that are always being sent to us, rather than being in our logical brain? So, my logical brain was judging, but my body started to realize that more was going on. I felt like a superhero in this moment because I don't know why, but I just knew that something was wrong with this man. And I yelled over my shoulder as I left the studio, "Call 911." And as I ran out to the car, this older man got out of the car clutching his chest and like really kind of freezing up. And I grabbed him, and he was probably like double my size. So we went down pretty quickly. Thankfully, someone else caught us as we went down. But he ended up having a stroke while he was driving on a busy road. My yoga studio was located on a busy road, and he knew that something was going on. And so he wanted to get off the road to save other people. So he turned down our street and into our parking lot, essentially trying to get out of his car to get help. But I just knew something was going on with him. Like, how did I know to tell my team to call 911? How did I even know that something was happening? And it was because I really at this time started to train my intuition and to understand that it comes from the sensations that are going on within us. And so, spoiler alert, he is fine. He actually came back almost 2 weeks later looking for the woman who he said, like, saved him. Essentially, he's said one of the last things that he remembers was me grabbing him before he didn't remember anything. And thankfully, the ambulance came and he went to the hospital and he ended up all right. And I didn't get to meet him again, but knowing that there was someone out there that I got to help and serve because of my intuition really started to change my perspective on how our intuition works. And this is where I invite you to go into deeper layers of yourself to be really aware of how your body's feeling in regular everyday moments. Like right now, while you're listening to this, what's your belly doing? And I ask that because for many people, we say we get gut feelings. And so that actually starts from being really attuned to our belly. For women specifically, this is where our creation of life happens. Our sacral chakra exists here. This is where we grow life. And so when we become really attuned to how our pelvic floor is reacting, how our low belly is reacting, are we sucking in? Are we relaxed? Are we breathing into our low belly? All of these things can start to key you into what you're actually feeling in the moment. And all of us have what I call hotspots. So for some, they're my shoulders. I played basketball when I was younger. It obviously must have stressed me out at the time because I guess I would play like this. If you're not watching the video, my shoulders are all the way up to my ears. And I would look in the audience in the bleachers, and my mom would always be like, lower your shoulders. And I'd be like, okay. And it's where we carry stress and tension. For some of us, it's our jaw. Do you grind your teeth at night when you sleep? What about, do you pay attention to your jaw in the line at the grocery store or in meetings at work? And so when we start to become really attuned to the different ways that our body is responding in different aspects of life, we also start to become really aware to what's happening with our body all the time. And this is how we get better about picking up the really small, subtle messages that are always being received. At one point in my career, if you've been along the journey for a while, I was teaching a lot of rocket, like handstands and inversions. And people would say to me, I don't understand how you teach energetics and intuition, and then you also teach something as like hardcore as rocket. And to me, it all comes down to the same thing, which is body awareness. It's being aware of the subtle shifts that's happening in your body. It might sound strange, but handstanding is actually one of the greatest teachers for me for intuition. It takes a lot of work for a mind body connection for me, what we call proprioception in handstand, which is where your body is in time and space. And so when I started to realize these really small things like pointing my toes made it easier to control my legs, or when I was in a straight line handstand, think like just a straight handstand. When I would lock out my knees, I would also have more control of my legs. And so what this is it's an embodiment practice. And I wish they would have spelled it like embodied, IN, because that's really what we're talking about. How often can you know something in your mind? Intellectually, you understand, but you don't feel it in your body, in your heart. And I find this a lot around emotional lessons or stories that we have. Um, for example, we can self sabotage out of a sense of low self worth. And in our mind, we can know that we're worthy. Like, I get it, right? Pointing to my brain. I get that I'm worthy. But do I feel it in my body? Do I feel the truth of it happening here? Because those are really the questions that we start to understand, bring us closer to the depth within ourselves. When we feel something as true within us rather than conceptualizing it. And so I don't know that many people always think about their body when it comes to intuition. But for me, it's been the key to how these things are linked. And so I really just invite you to be curious with number one, what is your hotspot in your body? And maybe you have a few of them like me, like my shoulders, my jaw, my pelvic floor, my low belly. And even again, right now, if you were to check in, what's happening in those places of your body? Do you feel a sense of pressure, of tension, of worry? Are you carrying that around all the time? Or is there something that's happening in this episode that's triggering those things in your body? And something that I do with all my intuitive students. So if you're interested in going deeper, I have a course that's amazing. It's called Cosmic Counseling. It is like relationship coaching between you and your higher self and really bringing those two things closer together. So if you don't know what I'm saying when I refer to your higher self, I'm talking about your intuition. But in my world, we refer to your higher self as the highest version of you. Think about the version of you that has lived 100 lives, including not even in human bodies, in maybe just being a star in the galaxy, just like this vastness of self. And that's what I call my higher self and who I specifically reach to for guidance. And something that feels really important to lean into is that some of this is uncomfortable, right? This idea like my higher self or many lifetimes. And we start straying away from main societal narratives. And to me, that's really where my rebel heart has had to come to grips with feeling different and feeling woo and wondering if I'm going to be accepted. And also knowing that just straight up, people are absolutely criticizing this. And even you might be listening thinking, like, wow, I really love this girl and she's a bit bonkers, you know? And actually, I invite you to have that same energy in your own life. For me, it's intuition and energetics and magic. Those things light me up, and I could literally never stop talking about them. Please DM me if you love these things, would love to chat. But what is it for you? What is something that your body gets so lit up about that when you're doing it, you feel so full and expansive, and that maybe other people might not accept it? And maybe you don't even accept it. And this doesn't have to be some kind of far out thing, but maybe it's as simple as pleasure and joy. Let me give you an example. I love reading fantasy. Surprise, surprise. It's always been that way. Um, as many of you know, or maybe don't, I am dyslexic. We'll have a podcast episode on that at some point because it's been a huge learning point in my life around how my brain works very differently than other people. And I feel really grateful to my first boyfriend, Harry Potter, because it is because of Harry Potter that I became such a ferocious and reading lover. Inviting me into the world of fantasy and joy and magic is something that really lights me up. But it was really hard for me being dyslexic. Actually, when I first read Harry Potter, when all my friends were reading Harry Potter, I wasn't at the reading level where I could read it. And I picked it up 3 years later and it changed my life. I cannot even tell you how many times I've read the book. Actually, my brother-in-law learned a lot of his English from Harry Potter because my sister watched it so much. So just saying, it runs in the family. Coming back to our point, something that I have a hard time letting myself do is reading first thing in the morning. Like even on the weekend when there's nothing to do, it's like, oh, well, I need to do my chores and I need to do this. And actually, what if you let your heart rebel against the narratives that you have in your mind and you prioritized joy first? And so that's what I mean when I say finding something that lights your body up, that makes you so excited and that allows you to really become more of yourself. And leaning into how you allow yourself to be in those things and the narratives that you have around what other people might think and putting them down so that you can be really true within that. And maybe you're already doing some of those things, but you do them with like more vigor and more excitement and more annoyance to the people around you because you love it so much. And so I have a few messages for you in this podcast. One is, regardless of what you love, don't let other people dim your shine just because you're afraid of what they might say. I have done that for a really long time. And I feel very grateful for the heart wrenching experiences that I experienced in the last year that allowed me to become more of myself and more true to myself and less afraid of myself. And so I really deeply invite you into that. And the second piece that I want to invite you into is just being aware of your body more often in anything and everything that you're doing. And if you have one place to start, I think as a woman, it's your low belly. Even there, I noticed like I was hugging my belly in a little bit, right? Like, how can I soften and relax into the moment? And if you're listening to this and you identify more with like masculine energy, your shoulders. What kind of burden are you carrying around that you don't need to carry around anymore? And what can you set down? Because one of the cool things about being in my world is that I really blend somatics, which is like the art of being in your body, the art of experiencing the wisdom of your body, with intuition, the guiding force that is inside of us that leads us to have such a better life because we truly feel guided, especially when life is lifing. And energetics, our frequency, how we vibrate, how we feel. Because if you noticed, if you paid attention, when I was talking about Harry Potter, did you feel how my frequency changed? Like there was so much more light and play and excitement. And then when I bring myself back to the story, when I've inevitably gotten off task a little bit, there is a little bit more contraction energy. I'm focusing on, oh yeah, what I should do. And so if you're ready to, you can even start to focus on these higher levels of self, of as you experience yourself, of how your energy shifts and changes, expands and contracts. because these things will lead you deeper and deeper into yourself. And so, surprise, surprise, in the meditation, we are going to be focusing on the body again. Y'all, I see these view counts, okay? I know that y'all are listening to the podcast, but I'm telling you, the magic happens in the meditation. If you commit to one meditation a week, things will start to shift. At least you will become more attuned with the world that's happening within you, which is the most powerful place to be. I did a podcast recently with Our Beats Radio and Jenny Busco, and she said something that I really loved, which was that some of us feel kind of like impending doom or something's about to happen, or like I feel like aliens are about to walk out of the sky any minute and be like, "Hello, we've been watching, we've been hanging out here for a while." And maybe for you, it's politics or what's going on in the world, but there's this sense of being unsettled. And the only way that you can protect yourself in the future is not by hoarding supplies or stockpiling water, although sometimes I think about it, but about attuning to the wisdom that's within you. Because when life's, the one thing that you can guarantee that you have is your connection to self. And I think that's also why Rebel Hearts Rising and intuition are so related to me. I'm going to cry. I've been through a lot in the last few years. And one of the greatest feelings ever was that I could turn within and I could be guided by my intuition. That even when I felt like the universe had literally punched me and knocked all my teeth out and left me with bruises, looking like I did after my nose surgery, I had the ability to lean in and see the bigger picture and feel guided on my next steps and like really see why things were happening the way that they were, because I spent time to train my intuition, this guiding force within me. And so I never feel alone because I always feel guided. And I'm starting to realize that that is one of my biggest passions in the world, is to help all of you and anyone who will listen how to tap into this wisdom, because I promise you it's there. Intuition is not a gift, it is a skill, and you can develop it. So, all this to say, y'all's asses best be in those meditations downloading the wisdom that exists within you. And I'm really grateful that you guys are here with me. I've been loving this passion project, and it really means the world to me when you reach out and let me know like what's landing and what's working and what you love. And the thing that would mean the most to me is sending this to somebody else. Because my goal with Rebel Hearts Rising is to grow into a micro movement, a collective of people who are willing to do the work, who want to bring out this inner wisdom that exists within all of us. So I'll catch you in the meditation. I'll see you there.